And while the 4-day work week might help with burnout, there are still some massive holes in the labor market. And one idea to address some of that is to skip on the college route and go old school, as in having a mentor and an apprentice, like in the olden days, but with a futuristic twist. There are programs growing right now in popularity across corporate America, with the labor secretary even saying that they think that this is crucial to the future of work here in the United States. And joining us now is Euan Blair. He's the CEO and founder of Multiverse, a tech startup that creates debt-free apprenticeship programs here in the United States and the UK. Euan, thanks so much for joining us today. I think a lot of people listening are very curious to know, how do apprenticeships work in the US, and do you need hard skills in a specific field to apply?
It's a great question. They're actually really simple. Look, an apprenticeship is work and training combined. So you don't pay. The costs are fully borne by the employer. They last typically a minimum of 12 months, and our apprenticeships are in tech and professional services. So high skill areas like data analytics, software engineering, business operations. And we also provide personalized coaching and access to a really rich community with meetups, socials, sports teams, and societies. And I think the important thing to stress, the growth is really coming in professional apprenticeships. So the kind of companies we work with are people like Google, McKinsey, Verizon, Morgan Stanley. These are incredible places to work who are taking people without college degrees, without debt, into these jobs.
Here's the thing, I gotta admit that if I was growing up today, I'd probably want to do coding. I could totally see myself as being one of those students that decides, like, I'm not going to college. I just want to figure things out myself. Whole apprenticeship thing, it sounds great, but if you're some random dude from New Mexico, how do you convince somebody to take a chance on you? With all due respect, you were the former Prime Minister, Tony Blair's son. If I went up against you for any job or apprenticeship, I would be nervous as hell. It feels like privilege still plays a huge role whether you go to school or not.
Well, privilege definitely plays a role. It's a big problem because there's a massive asymmetry of information. If you come from the kind of background where you've had access to lots of opportunities, internships, you have friends or family members who work in an industry, then that gives you a distinct advantage. But actually, employers want to reach different sources of talent. They know they need to better reflect both the societies they operate in and the customers they serve. And they can't do that by simply hiring the same people. And so it's fascinating. Businesses are actually really driving this. If you look at our apprenticeship programs in the US, 80% of the people that we place are people of color. About half of that group are black. 40% come from the most economically underserved communities. And they are working at these elite companies in brilliant jobs, earning a family-sustaining wage. The average wage for our apprentices in the US is $60,000 a year. And remember, that's with no debt, that's with no opportunity cost of not earning while you're learning, because they're getting that salary from day one of the program. The most important stat I can give you is that 93% stay long-term in their job with that employer. So these are gateways to long-term, really successful careers.
Wow. And you're at the front lines of all of this landscape. As you look at it, where do you see the biggest gaps? If you were in high school right now, where would you focus most of your attention?
Well, it's really actually calling into question, do you need to go to college? Because at a certain point, 75% of high schoolers will go to college. About half of that group will drop out without completing, which is a real problem, especially when you think of the debt that's being accumulated. Half of all people who graduate from college see no income premium from high school 10 years out. That is a massive, massive issue. So really what we're saying is there is a better alternative where you can go and pursue an apprenticeship, you earn while you learn, you get access to coaching, you get access to mentoring, and you mentioned coding before, right? You're learning things like software engineering, data analytics, jobs they can't really teach you how to do in colleges anyway, because the curriculum gets out of date incredibly quickly, and there is a massive difference between learning how to code in a classroom versus actually doing the job practically. The really fascinating thing about all of this is it is being driven by employers. Employers actually don't care what you know, they care what you can do. And so apprenticeships are the best way of demonstrating that in a really, really practical setting.
Very exciting time. Euan Blair, thanks so much for making the time tonight, my friend.
Pleasure.